All right, you're both co-hosts now. You can take over the screen and start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Veronica, the floor is yours. Are you with us? Okay. We are waiting for Veronica. She is with us, but I don't know why her microphone is...
I'm here. She's mute.
Yeah, she's here, but I don't know what about her microphone. Sorry for the technical problems. Give us 1 minute and I think that we will be ready for presentation. Okay, so Veronica wrote me that she has a problem with her microphone, so maybe I can start with Humanistic Management Archive, and then Veronica will check her microphone, and then she will present.
Okay.
Is it okay? Okay. So I will share my screen. Okay, so here I hope that you can see a Humanistic Management and Management Archive of culture activity during pandemic times, and I will share this link on chat also. So Humanistic Management Network unites people from almost 20 countries. We differ in age, gender, skin color, language, and many other characteristics. But we are also united in making management more humanistic. Our diversity also can become an excellent field for research. With this in mind, we would like to offer you a joint creation of Humanistic Management Archive of Cultural Activity during Pandemic Times 2020. Most of us spent the spring locked up, and unfortunately, many of us will be facing this situation again. As indicated in a special edition of Culture Tract Research, Culture Press Community in Times of Crisis, 81% of responders reported doing something creative during the pandemic, and 53% were participating in digital cultural activities. According to the researchers, people require cultural activities to provide fun and relax, stay connected, educate children when schools are closed, as well as offer entertainment and escape during the crisis. So we are asking you, how you've been participating in cultural events? What does it look like to participate in online cultural events in different parts of the world? What are the differences and similarities? What are you looking for in it? So you can share with us your thoughts and pictures about your cultural activity during pandemic times. Please keep in mind that we understand culture in a very broad sense. Every creative activity is connected with culture, even cooking or handicraft. And I hope that you can see on my screen now the first cover slide, and then me and Veronica added some information about our activity during pandemic times. We had some photos and also a description. And the next slides are empty and they're waiting for your stories and picture. So let's create our Humanistic Management Archive together. Thank you very much. And I hope that Veronica is now with us and that her microphone is working.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but very not so loud.
Now?
No. Please try again. Okay, I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Now, can you hear me?
Not so good, but yeah. Okay, is Jarek with us? And also other participants?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And Anya?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good morning, depending on the time zone you are.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
And Ruth? Is Ruth with us?
Yes.
Okay. Veronica, we can't hear you.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, very sorry for these problems here. I don't know what happened. So, if something is not working, please write it in the chat. Once again, welcome to the panel organized by the Polish chapter of Humanistic Management. My name is, well, Weronika Pokojska, and together with my friend who already presented her part, Agnieszka Konior, we have the pleasure to host this session this afternoon. We are both representing the Jagiellonian University in Krakow, and we had the pleasure to organize last year's conference at our university. I would also like to start with introducing the guests in alphabetical order. So our first guest is Natalia Kaczor. Natalia is a musician, accessibility expert, and a website and mobile application tester in terms of the possibility of using them by blind people. Our second guest is Jarek Klaś, who is an expert on culture management, and is currently completing his doctoral thesis on Nowa Huta district in Krakow at the Jagiellonian University. And our third guest is Ania Knapek. Ania works at the National Museum in Warsaw, where she coordinates educational projects and is also in charge of the accessibility of the institution. And last but not least, our fourth guest is Ruth Slater. Ruth is a freelance researcher and writer and a member of the UK chapter of the Humanistic Management Network. So first, I would like to start with a short introduction, and then we will move on to the discussion. During our meeting, we will discuss the subject of unity and diversity in the context of cultural organizations and the problem of how inclusive digital tools really are. Our slot was supposed to be divided in two parts: the introduction of the HUMA, the Humanistic Management Archive of Cultural Activity during Pandemic Times 2020, and the panel part on digital inclusion, cultural participation during the pandemic. The pandemic times showed us how important culture and social activities are and how we miss them these days. Nearly all of us were or are still participating in culture online, visiting virtual exhibitions, watching movies and performances online, dancing or singing together in front of laptop cameras while being locked down, constantly trying to find new ways to communicate with other people and constantly trying to be somehow distant socialized with other people. Culture allows us to stay united, experience togetherness despite the fact that we are separate. Inspired by other already existing Corona archives, we would also like to record this specific time and create a common archive of cultural activities. And that's why we asked you to share with us your thoughts and memories on participation in culture. And this is the part which Agnieszka has already presented to you. And we encourage you to join the project and to add your posts and your messages on the participation in culture during the pandemic. Well, during the pandemic, nearly all social activities moved to the digital world. We work, socialize, spend free time online. Perhaps some of us have at least once experienced the feeling of a digital overload. Paradoxically, it became easier to meet online with people from all over the world than with friends in the same neighborhood. Paradoxically, smartphone or computer screens are our windows to the world, but at the same time, they are an invincible barrier. We cannot touch, smell, or feel each other. Paradoxically, the most vulnerable people in the society for whose safety we are asked to stay at home, like children, the elderly, people with disabilities, might have difficulties to participate in the new social reality, which is basically relying on technical equipment, stable internet connections, digital competence, and a general fitness, which allows you to operate all of that and to participate. At the same time, latest research provided, for example, by scientists gathered around the Princeton Malone Initiative in Architecture, Urbanism, and the Humanities confirms that the differences between the privileged and unprivileged continue to divide society during the pandemic in terms of access to transportation, food, and green areas, just to mention 3 aspects. In general, paraphrasing a slogan from the 2017 Documenta exhibition in Kassel, staying safe is scary. So what inspired us to organize this panel? I have participated in a discussion around the Corona Archive, a collective project organized by a few academic institutions in Germany. The public had been asked to submit pictures, recordings, texts exemplifying how people spent the pandemic. The initiative is generally seen as a very successful one, a great cultural fast response activity based on people's voluntary input, which could be useful for future generations of scientists who would like to analyze our times and the things which happened now. At the end of the discussion, the organizers had an interesting comment on themselves. They admitted that the project didn't work out. Why that? Because they received a lot of funny pictures of toilet paper hoarders and touching stories of solidarity, basically privileged stories. But what is wrong with that? Well, because it is only one side of the Corona story. People with limited access to digital tools won't submit their memories and thoughts. People working at hospitals have neither time nor capacity to share pictures from the front line. They are busy saving lives and keeping people alive. Stressed people trying to figure out how to manage work and family living in small, big city apartments won't necessarily think about registering their everyday life. So these considerations affected the organizers to rethink their project and cooperate, for example, with schools. So school children were asked to draw their everyday routines in Corona times, and the effect was overwhelming for the people working for the Corona Archive. Because the pictures showed a more objective, honest picture of a Corona childhood, including arguments with siblings, boredom, stressed out parents, and the omnipresent feeling of missing friends, freedom, even school. So our humor archive is also limited, of course, and the story I mentioned now inspired us to discuss during the panel the situation of excluded groups and show on the examples of various cultural and social institutions how these organizations cope or maybe fail with managing this situation. As media says, many cultural institutions have proved that they are able to quickly adapt to the changing conditions. For example, the changing restrictions and hygiene regulations. So the speakers we invited for today are cultural practitioners who work on the accessibility of events and organizations, or who have academic experience and interest in the subject. In case you have any questions additionally to this, what we will discuss, please write them in the chat. We will ask them at the end of the discussion. So in advance, I have asked our speakers to prepare short introductions and ask them to share with us how they worked and lived before the pandemic, how this changed after March, and how the organizations they are involved with adapted to the new circumstances in general. So first I would like Anja Knappek to start, and then we will continue with the other speakers.
Thank you for invitation for this discussion. I feel it will be very interesting meeting. And thank you for sharing the research you mentioned. It's very interesting for me. My name is Anna Knapek. As it was said, I work in the education department of the National Museum in Warsaw. I've coordinated many programs which are in our museum for people who are visually impaired or who have difficulties in hearing, or for children in autism. So this is the main part. This was my main part of my work. I also coordinated lots of programs accompanying temporary exhibitions which were displayed in our museum. I also have some projects which I invented and coordinated independently. So basically, my background is archaeology, but since the very beginning, I'm involved in the National Museum of Warsaw education department. So I worked with children, with adults, with teachers. So it's a quite big, diverse group of people. I've learned a lot during this past few years, but I think that the past 6 months was a time when I've learned a lot, much more than usually. I'm always on the run now also, but in a more static way. So you asked what changed. I think this is what changed. I was on the run, going somewhere, coming back home, going to the museum, meeting people, and so on. Now I'm doing basically the same, but sitting in front of my computer. It's of course a completely different experience, but still I'm very much involved in many activities. I must admit that at the very beginning, in the middle of March, when the lockdown happened to us, I was afraid that I will have nothing to do because the museum was closing. I had a vision maybe of a chill home office work, but nothing of that happened, which happened, and I'm very glad for that actually. So maybe that's it for now.
So I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you've gained a lot of new knowledge during this last half year. How would you describe what kind of knowledge this is? Is it more organizational knowledge, or more on your connected with interpersonal issues?
I've learned a lot about internet. I've learned a lot about different platforms for cooperating with people, for running video conferences like this one. I've also learned a lot about cooperating, about coordinating work with a team which is dispersed. You know, people are at their homes, they are not here, I can't meet them. So I had to learn how to work with 20 people and do it smoothly without any problems. So I think that internet and being more fluent in that, and also working with people on distance.
So now I would like Jarek to continue with this first introductional round.
Thank you for invitation, Veronica, and your introduction. I work at the Norwid Cultural Center in Krakow. It is a community center run by the city of Krakow. Our institution include, for example, a cinema, an art gallery, 2 libraries, and 2 cultural clubs. I'm the head of the Nowa Huta Heritage Laboratory. So in this section, we focus on cultural and natural heritage, especially in the context of Nowa Huta, a post-socialist district of Krakow. We are also close to cultural and ecological education. So usually in normal times, we organize walks, lectures, workshops, slideshows, as well as educational and recreational events organized for individual recipients and organized groups. We also publish books. Generally speaking, usually it is really connected with people and with real contact, not using a computer, internet, and so on. The pandemic has definitely changed the way we work. I have really close, really similar experiences as Anya told before. At first, we thought it will be really hard because we will be bored and have nothing to do. But for now, after this 6 months or 7 months, I don't know now, it was a really busy time. At first, when the beginning, when lockdown at the beginning of the lockdown, sorry, we all thought it was only for a while. So at first we canceled the events and moved some to a later time. And after that, now we should talk that all our thoughts, it was, sorry. At the beginning of the lockdown, we all thought it was only for a while. We canceled our events and moved some to a later time that turned out not to come. We were not prepared for internet activities. At first, in March, we started to publish various materials encouraging individual activity at home under the slogan of the Home Heritage Laboratory. Then in April, we started making podcasts because we had a nice voice recorder, and it was the main reason, because at first our hardware and software was really poor. Then in April, we started making podcasts. In May, we gained access to the webinar platform and started organizing webinars with broadcasts on Facebook. Then in July, we launched stationary activities again, but under very high sanitary regime. We mainly organize outdoor walks for a smaller number of people with masks, etc. From mid-October, we reoperate on the internet, but we also maintain a small stationary activity as long as it's possible. But 2 hours ago, Prime Minister announced new regulations due to increase of number of sickness. According to them, cultural centers going to be closed till 29th of November or maybe longer. So now we are waiting what will be next.
Yes, for those of you who are not in Poland or not into the things happening here, since 2 hours we have the information that all cultural institutions will be closed until November, or it's not fixed at the moment?
End of November or longer.
Yeah.
Yes, which is quite interesting because today in the morning, also some data was published on how the financial aspect of the cultural sector basically collapsed. So the situation of the cultural sector seems not to be really good, and now everything is getting closed, so it's getting even worse probably. So, and now I would like to continue with this first question. Ruth, are you here?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. It's a great pleasure to be invited and to be with you this afternoon. I never thought that it would happen. So thank you for that. Oh, I think my internet's going to be bad. I'll keep going. If I should collapse, I'll get back in again. Before the pandemic began, I was actually working as an academic in an institution in the northwest of England. And at Christmas, I left for a variety of reasons. My husband had been very poorly, my mother had died, I also lived 80 miles away. from my institution, and I decided I wanted to plough my own furrow, as we say, and do more or participate in more things that interested me. In other words, do more research, do more writing, and also join cultural groups within the area where I lived. So I joined what we call here in Britain the University of the Third Age, where people there's a history group and language groups and walking groups and gardening groups and theatre groups, you name it, there's a group for virtually everything. So I joined a language group there and a music group, and I also joined a very big choral society. And I started singing with the Derbyshire Singers in January, straight after Christmas. And we were working towards a concert which was due to take place on the 23rd of March. And we rehearsed all that time, and literally we were one rehearsal away when Prime Minister Johnson announced the first lockdown, and everything stopped. Absolutely everything stopped. And this, so I was sad about that, but being around the home and around the computer more, I discovered all kinds of digital cultural outlets to participate in, and ever since I've been involved in a number of cultural activities, mainly with a global community of singers who record and a particular piece of music and submit it, and it's then put together and made into a big track that is then posted on YouTube. And as it happens, this afternoon at 6 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, our time, the Stay at Home Choir is doing another premiere on YouTube of one of the things that we did together. So I was able to participate and have my outlet doing things like that. We're just about to start Christmas music and things like that too. I'm hoping that at some point during this conference I will be able to share some of the things that the Stay at Home Choir have done. But I also did lots of writing and lots of photography, because in order to get out, get some exercise, I used to go walking in the grounds where we live, and taking lots of photographs and writing a lockdown diary with pictures, and I've got that, and I'm hoping to be able to submit some of that to your archive. I am a creator. I'm a consumer of digital culture, very much. But I'm also very aware, particularly because of the place where I live, that there are many people who are excluded. They are excluded from digital participation, either through lack of awareness or perceived lack of ability to do it. And I'm speaking about the more senior citizens in our societies, the mature citizens, the elderly. And these are people who, at the start of the first lockdown, were labelled vulnerable. And in Britain, they were told to stay home, stay home, wash hands, stay safe, protect the National Health Service. In other words, stay out of hospital and things like that. But I was very aware. I became very aware of the labels that people were attaching to the people I know very well, but also aware of the loneliness and the marginalisation that can occur for some people, especially those who don't have access to digital, who are not particularly digitally literate. So, as an example, as well as being a consumer, I'm also a creator, through the stay-at-home choir, but also in the village where I live, I also used to organise the little choir. There were 20 people, all geriatric singers, some with experience and some with not, without experience. And they've been desperate to sing again. We cannot sing together. So we tried Zoom meetings, and with impaired hearing and lack of ability to use machines, it didn't really work. And it's such a shame. And again, similar to Poland, although we've known since last Saturday, as of 1 minute past midnight tonight, England is going into a 4-week lockdown. And again, we don't know how, well, they said till the 2nd of December, but it could go on, as we know. So things will stay the same as they did do from right at the beginning of the pandemic, all through the summer when things were locked down. Things will continue in the way that they have. So I hope that helps answer some of your first question, Veronica.
Yes, thank you very much. And now we will pass over the microphone to Natalia to share with us her experiences, how the pandemic changed her life. I hope she's still with us.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Or at least we could.
Hi. Yeah, it's me. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Can you hear? Oh, fine, thank you. Yeah, it's me, it's Natalie. I'm very happy to be here with you, and thank you for invitation. I'm so grateful and proud to be here with you, and happy to share my experience and to listen to yours. Well, I think, well, the pandemic times, these are so hard for everyone, and we can and we should share the experience. Wait just a little second. I need to turn off my synthesis, which is very loud and just interrupting me. Oh, okay, fine. So my work is really fascinating and really exciting because I have so many things to do all the time. I'm busy all the time because I'm a kind of a freelancer who makes so many different things. For example, I'm a musician, as the girl said, and I'm a violinist and a flautist. And since last year, I thought I could just find myself in playing my music and singing during the different kind of celebrities, like the weddings. And I've created a kind of duet, 2 or 3 different duets, in which we were playing and singing together, which was really exciting. But of course, the pandemic came, and then suddenly everything was locked. And then we decided to record some of our pieces. We play and we sing, and even if we were far away from each other, because I was in my parents' house at that time in Lublin, but I live in Krakow. That's what I should say first. And we decided to record some of our pieces to show them and to share the rehearsals, online rehearsals, and our recorded pieces. And I've created my YouTube channel, which I wholeheartedly invite you to come to see. I will be very happy. And finally, of course, we had some weddings, actually the 14 of them this year, which is kind of fine, I think, because you know how the times, what the times are like. Yes. So my second job, which is maybe the most important even this time, is being an expert in many different projects and helping many different institutions. Because, oh, I didn't say that, I'm a congenitally blind person, and I'm naturally involved in accessibility, because accessibility for the disabled people is accessibility for me. So wanting to, for example, if I wanted to attend, to come to the museum, I hoped I can find something for me which is accessible, so that I started to create accessibility myself and helping others to create this accessibility together. Yes, so I'm an expert, and I work in the Krakow's project, which is sensitive culture, which combines and joins many different institutions of culture together, and they have some points to how to say that. They have some tasks to follow to create this accessibility. And I create my own projects as well. I record webinars as well, for example, about Braille alphabet recently, about orientation and mobility in space, about the education offer of, and creating the education offer in many institutions of culture as well. So I'm helping as an expert, being an expert, I'm helping institutions to write and consult audio descriptions. So no, my friends are writing and I'm consulting, of course, because I'm blind, so I cannot describe what is visible. But and I'm consulting tiflographics, which are the pictures for the blind people, and also education offers and classes, workshops in institutions, so to make them accessible for blind children and adults, and also websites and mobile applications, mobile apps. I'm a tester, a consultant. This is what and who I am, and how my life changed because of the pandemic. I think the most important, crucial thing is that I lost my work. I was working, that was a work of my life, to be honest. I was working in the Warmai Museum. This is a museum of, the abbreviation is World of My All Inspirations, Warmai, and this is in Krakow. And there are two exhibitions, and one of these is an exhibition in a complete darkness. And I, being a blind person, I was a guide on this exhibition, showing sighted people how to manage and how to function without their sense of sight, which was really exciting. That was really fascinating. And I think the most important task of me, being a guide, being an expert, being a musician, being who I am, is to raise the awareness of how the life with disability can be, and integrating people with disabilities and without them. And I think all of my things which I do, they are completely different, but they have the same direction, which is just to show that we can make so many fantastic things. And this is the most important, I think. And after I lost my work, the pandemic started, and yeah, before I lost my work, and then of course I was searching, but I think I think, oh, now I have now I have another work, so I'm happy. Now I'm an expert in the Center of Science in Krakow, Cogiteon, which is also very exciting and fascinating period of my life, maybe next stage, kind of, and I find it really exciting. Yes, but what has changed in my life, I think, actually, because the technology was also always one of my interests, and I think I'm quite a fluent tester and user of different apps and websites and tools. So I think that was so simple for me to follow and to stay online. So now I have a lot of projects. For example, we train yoga. We practice yoga with my blind friends, female friends, girls, and we have our trainer who trains with us online. And this is so fascinating. Then, like, if we have a tool, if we are engaged, involved, if we are if we know what we need, if we can communicate what we need and try to help in providing, this is a clue for me, because it really works. It really works. But I still find it very hard for other people, for other blind people, for example, especially women. I don't know why. Maybe because the technology is not their field of their interests, basically. Statistically, I think. Maybe. But I think it can be very hard if the technology is not known. But if we know it, if we like it, and if we try to follow, then we can win it, and then we can do lots of fascinating things, even during the pandemic, waiting for the great opening. I hope so. And my organization of my life, I think, well, I think I'm a kind of person who is quite organized, because I did, even before the pandemic, I did a lot of things online too. So this is very easy for me to work online. I have no problem, completely no problem with that. Of course, I would love to go and see the exhibition which I was expert in creating this, or for example, to the cinema to see the movie with audio description. I would love to, but well, I hope we can do this in near future, maybe. I hope so. Yeah. I think I should finish, maybe.
I just wanted to say that as someone wrote in the comment section that your energy is really great, and I think we felt that during your introduction.
Thank you. I'm not very academic.
Look, we cannot only discuss everything in an academic circle. The next question I have is perhaps more about organization, so it's dedicated a bit more to Jarek and Anya, because I wanted to know how you realized that if there are any groups which are a bit maybe left out during your activity during the pandemic, and how you tried to reach out to them, which tools you used, and maybe what kind of difficulties occurred, which kind of problems occurred trying to reach, I don't know, elderly people, for example. Anya, maybe you will start.
Yes, it's a very, very difficult question, actually. How to contact people, how to get in touch with people when you are closed. Museum was closed in the middle of March and reopened in the middle of May. So there were 2 months that we worked only via internet. It was not possible to meet. So so this was the hardest part. I must say that we realized from the very beginning that we want to stay in touch with our audiences, but we also have to take care of our educators, of people who are working for us and running workshops, and we couldn't expose them for any danger. Yes, you know what I mean. We had to be aware of this too, of this factor also. So I must admit that we worked mostly online, but it doesn't. But it also showed us that we helped a lot of people. Actually, I will begin with our online lessons. At the very beginning of April, we started running online lessons because students, pupils, schools is the group that mostly visit our museums. We run approximately 2,500 lessons per year. So we wanted to do something for teachers who also were in a very difficult situation at that time. So we offered free online lessons, and during 3.5 months till June, we had 915 of them. This let us do two things. First, we could keep our educators working for us. We were very afraid that we will lose great people who will find another job during that time. So we wanted the team to stay together. Never mind what will happen. And now a few words about teachers. This is something I wasn't expected. I must say that it's kind of maybe added value to our lessons. Many teachers told us that thanks to our online lessons that we run on Zoom, like this meeting, thanks to that, they started working online with their students. Because, for example, before they were only sending them some materials via Librus. This is a system for teaching in Poland, or maybe they were sending some teaching materials via email. But thanks to us, they started running workshops, lessons live with children on Skype or some other platform, but it convinced them that it really works, that it's easy to use. Many of our educators before lessons, they were talking to teachers. They were talking to them, instructing them how to use this tool. They were often meeting before their lessons to provide teacher information he will need for their students to connect. So it was also that hidden part of that work. And I'm very glad that we could reach those teachers and encourage them to do something more. We also are very grateful for that we could meet from people from so many cities around Poland and around the world. I think this is also a very important part of our life, that we don't think about how many people are geographically excluded. They are from small towns, for example, and they will not visit Warsaw, or maybe if they will visit Warsaw or have some limited time, they will not visit our museums. But thanks to those lessons, we could meet. We also had a separate program which was called Naturalne SOS. This was a program for students before their final exams in high school, and this was for those who wanted to pass history of art as one of the subjects. And people from all around, from Poland all around, were joining these meetings, meeting art historians, meeting our curators, and it wouldn't be possible if pandemic wouldn't happen. So that's also very important to think for me, that maybe, of course, there's a group of people who doesn't use internet. I have no idea how to reach them without meeting in person. I cannot force anyone to take that risk. and go and meet anyone in person. We had some programs where we were visiting schools, for example, but it's also for schools impossible right now to invite anyone stranger into their walls. So also many people are afraid of meeting with people from outside their circle of family, closest family or closest friends. But I hope that thanks to those online activities we had for schools, for example, we could encourage people to be more encouraged to be more to have more courage. maybe this maybe this.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thank you for mentioning this geographical exclusion, because this is also connected with the safety of transportation nowadays. I mean, you cannot expect someone to travel, I don't know, by bus to Warsaw, for example. Jarek, now it's your turn.
So in online activity, we do not always reach our regular audience. For example, some seniors who usually use our offer are excluded from online activities. Not everybody, but sometimes it is a problem. But for example, our activities reach people who would never come to similar events in real space. For example, because they live in the other side of Poland. You told before about that. So in my opinion, online culture, if I can use this sentence, is both exclusive because of digital exclusion and inclusive because of new recipients. So we should also note that the essence of cultural animation is building relationships, which in the case of online activities is much more difficult. And it is, and in the long term, in the long run, cannot replace real meetings. It only supplements them. So our recipients expect stationary events in real space, enabling direct contact with others and also with heritage. So I think we should have this both view, because about the exclusion and about inclusive role of these online activities.
Jarek, would you say that your new public, that you already, how to say, managed to have a new type of relationship with them as an organization, or are these accidental participants of just one event and that's it? Or are they regular visitors or participants of your online offer?
It depends, because some events are really interested from some people from other sites, and they are our users only for one event. But we try to have this relation with our normal recipients, you know. For example, we organize some online meetings when we can only meet. There is no any topic. We only try to have a contact with them and to talk about our problems, especially in this pandemic context, because everybody, I think, have now they want to talk about that, about their problems, about about the situation we force everybody with them.
And now I would like to ask Ruth, if you could share with us your first-hand experience from the place you live now. What?
Veronica, you should be closer to the microphone, to the screen, because we can hear you. So can you explain it one again? It will be very good.
Okay, so the next question is for Ruth. If you could share with us your experiences from the place you live, which tools worked out in staying in contact with the people living in your place, which didn't work out maybe that good? Because I remember that you mentioned different types of different ways of communication and staying together between the elder people. Is Ruth still with us?
I think that she lost her internet connection.
Okay, so then we'll move on. So my next question would be for Natalia. I wondered if such a consultant has now more work, or is it the same amount of work? Like, are the organizations now more aware that they should be more accessible and available? That somehow during the pandemic they changed their view on this issue?
Maybe no. Okay. Okay. Well, on the one side, I think now the institutions have some more time, and people working there, of course, they have some more time to focus on many different things which were abandoned before the pandemic. And I think they now have a feeling that something was wrong, and they should provide better solutions. And well, and I think this is the point. But on the other side, I have less work because some of the projects which we wanted to provide this year, they just are kind of missed for this year. Maybe they will be continued in the future. I think so. But well, the accessibility in Poland, this is a very, very new brand, and I think we are on in this progress, in the process of creating the accessibility in a way it should be. So it's still very, very new, and there are a lot of institutions in which people, they really try their best to to create the best solutions possible, even with low budget, for example. But there are still some places, many places, really many places, in which people, just frankly speaking, they just don't know about accessibility, just nothing. Fortunately, I'm in Krakow. I live in Krakow, where we have our great, enormous project, which is sensitive culture, the sensitive culture. And this is a tool which helps, which supports institutions. At first, they are trained by experts in many different fields, and then they choose their own coordinators of accessibility. These are particular people who are looking after the whole accessibility process, and then they get so scientific support from experts and from the conductor of the whole process. So I think one side, yes, the accessibility helps and it goes up, it increases, but on the other, it's still a process. But I think pandemic times are the times when we have some more possibilities and some more time to improve something which was just wrong before.
So we can see this time as a chance to make some positive changes in the functioning.
Exactly. One plus. Exactly.
A huge one if it works out. If Ruth is back, Ruth? I don't know if she's here.
Sorry about that. It's always happens. It's happened to me several times recently. Somebody invites me to speak, and my internet crashes. It's the way it goes.
It
But
excludes you.
yes, it does exclude me. It does. Well, I think that the people who provide the broadband internet connection to this village think that because we're all old,
You need
citizens,
slow connection.
we don't need it. May I just ask you, Veronica, just to repeat the question that you were asking the others?
Yes, sure. Because I remember that in advance we talked about this subject, and you mentioned different ways in which the community you live in tried to reach and stay communicated with the people living there. So if you could share with us these different solutions and which worked out and which basically it didn't work out that good.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the people who live here are all over 55. In fact, I'm the youngest person who live here. Most of them are retired. I'm not really retired. And the management company who do all the administration and see to all sorts of things were very, very, very good at offering to do shopping, making welfare calls, that kind of thing. And so that went on as normal. They were very assiduous, very diligent, looking after us. I say us, I'm including myself, although, you know, there are lot of people here who are very, very able people and whose biggest problem is isolation. The fact that they couldn't go and see a neighbour or participate in some of the other groups that they had been doing. But one of the people who live in the village decided quite quickly in the first lockdown, let's do a newsletter. He asked for his contributions, which were very much, I found them very... Being slightly younger than everybody else, I found them a little tedious, but because it was all about memories of this and memories of that and so on and so forth. But every so often he produced a sort of 2-page document with stories and photographs and things like that on it. That, I think, it came out with very great frequency and got to the point that every time it came through the letterbox, people used to roll their eyes and say, oh no, not another one. And gradually this spaced out a little bit. But I have to say, the whole, the issue of just having the same sort of content recently has changed. People are putting more sort of reflective, less depressing pieces on. For example, 2 members of the village have had a Lego building competition, building huge models of Lego, things like big Volvo trucks and the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, and pictures of those went up with quite an amusing little narrative about it. And also in the autumn, in the lovely autumn we've been able to look at different views, one in spring and one in winter, and just get that kind of thing, a different view. And because it's not digital, it's actually being pushed through everybody's letterbox. I think it's probably being very well received and well read, and that was the initiative of somebody in this village who decided to do that. There was a point, and I wrote about this in an article for organisations and people, a partially ethnographic reflection of living in this place in COVID times. You know, there was a time when it all seemed a bit too worthy, but I think things have settled and things are good, but we do are much better rather. But we do have this problem of the elderly being marginalised and assumptions being made about them of what they can and can't do. But the very, very real problem, there are two very real problems as I see it. One is genuine failing of capacity, sort of mental capacity, physical capacity. One's ability to manipulate things disappears. One's hearing goes, and eyesight fails, and things like that. That is very, very real, and actually stops people participating in digital culture. And the other is the fact that they don't want to or haven't got the wherewithal or the capacity to deal with the internet. Plus the fact that we get rubbish broadband here at the moment, which doesn't help. I think there's definitely been and still remains a marginalisation of certain, and a labelling of certain groups which labels them and categorises them in such a way that's not actually very respectful. And that was one of the things that exercised me in earlier on in the pandemic, and to some degree still does. So I don't know if that answered your question. I do hope so.
Yes, it did. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruth. Okay, my next question is again a bit more about organizations. So it's again more dedicated to Anya and Jarek. I was wondering if you have the feeling that your institutions have now a different role in the community they function, or if it's basically the same roles and just the tools or the public change maybe a bit. Or do you have the feeling that they are maybe now even more important because the people use them and this is the way they try to stay in contact with culture, with the world? What is your impression at the moment? Jarek, maybe you will start.
So I think the way we work has changed, but not the role of our institution. So I think the sense of our work is the same, because we're still building relationship, but we use other tools, I think. So we try to using online activities, online cultural animation, or how we can name that, I don't know, to make some relations between people and to give them what they want, some activities, some recreation, some knowledge, and it depends of the event, but we try to do that. And I think it will be some new skill for us, because I think that in the perspective, not all activities in real space can be directly transferred to the internet, because sometimes it is physically impossible. But we have a new digital competences to operate online, and we will certainly continue to use them. Our experiences, tool, competences from the times of the pandemic will be used to some extent in the future. I think after restoring full our stationary operations, hope next year, but we don't know. And this online activity, I think, will become a permanent element of the offer, not only our offer, but all culture institutions. Online activity will be permanently present in the programs of cultural institutions. This is a new standard expected by our audience. There is no turning back from this. However, I think that the proportions will be more balanced in the future. Certainly, there is a certain oversaturation with the offer on the internet. So it is also the problem, because every cultural institutions, and not only cultural institutions, start to do something in the internet. And I think sometimes people are a little tired to using that. So it is also some problem how to deal with that.
Yeah, I think this is something we discussed also yesterday on another subject connected with conferences, that there are now so many online conferences, online events, that you somehow are more busy than in normal times, scheduling where you want to participate and on which tool and which platform and so on. So perhaps it's getting a bit more stressful even than in normal times. Anya, would you like to add something to this question?
It's very important to remember why people visit museums, for example. There are two basic reasons, in my opinion. First, they want to socialize. They want to meet other people, to go out somewhere with friends, families, or children, spend some time together, spend their free time. Once I've even met a term entertainment, that visiting museum or science centers it's a kind of entertainment, but connected with education. It's a wise way of spending your free time, doing something interesting with people you like. So this is the starting point, how to provide people possibility of spending their free time online. Most of us are fed up with the internet because we are working online. So that's why we offered a few ways you could take part in Facebook streaming, or you can take part in some online live events, and we also prepared some workshops for children. We recorded some workshops for children, or podcasts, or lectures, and you could also listen to them whenever you wanted. I also did one more thing to stay in touch with a group which was very important for me, with our visually impaired visitors. There is about 20 of them visiting us very regularly. I have direct email contacts to them. And I was wondering what to do, how to stay in touch. And I decided to send a kind of newsletter once a week. I'm sending an email to them with the object of the week, where I write a few words about one of paintings or other objects from our collection. I add audio description for that, which is recorded, which is on our website also available. And I also recommend some other educational accessible materials we have, for example, some essays written by our educators, or movies which are recorded in an accessible way. So there are many different ways you have to think about who. I think you have to think a little bit who will use it, and how it can be used. For example, workshops for children I've mentioned can be used by a teacher, by parent, by grandparents who are spending time with the kids. They can do something together based on what is done. And I think that thanks to that would happen. That thanks to that pandemic, our museum has a more human face to our visitors, because usually you say National Museum in Warsaw. Now many teachers can say, okay, I've met Mrs. Anya, I've met Mrs. Kasia, or I've met Mrs. Monica during workshops. We have great feedback from teachers, what they think about lessons we run thanks to that direct contact with us. So I think with the role of museum didn't change much because of pandemic, but it got a bit more human face to our visitors. I hope that it happened.
Well, I had prepared a final question for this panel about what you know, kind of positive solutions would be useful even after the pandemic. But all of you are already mentioning these different aspects, so I won't ask it at the end. But you have mentioned earlier that, of course, it is difficult to make now different events or lessons or whatever due to the safety issues, and you cannot ask your co-workers to do something, and also you cannot ask the students to do something. But do you see any opportunity or any way to stay united in contact besides the digital world, or is it now basically not possible and we just have to adapt somehow to this situation? Do you have maybe some examples of, I don't know, some initiatives where it was, which were not digital, but gave somehow the feeling of staying together and caring for each other?
I do not recall any of this initiative. I may say that personally, I still have this strong feeling that we are doing something together. By saying we, I mean me, my team, my educators, my museum colleagues. That although we are glued to our chairs in our homes, that we are still doing many things together as a team. And I personally, nowadays, as a museum, I think it is impossible to meet in person, to stay in a direct connected directly. But you know, it's I always say that I'm not able to invent everything that can be invented. That's why I'm always very very fond of cooperations we have with many institutions, because they know what they need. If there is a group of people, I don't know, of neighbors who are living in one block of flats, and they want to invite their neighbors for a lecture from a museum, to invite their elderly or other neighbors who don't have internet, it will be possible to be done. But sometimes I think that the initiative also has to come from the other side. I don't know if you know what I mean. Sometimes both sides have to think what they need, what they want to do, and we are always very eager to join, to support any that kind of initiative. This is what I may say in that case.
I see that Natalia would like to add something. So Natalia, I would also like to answer you the question about how to stay united and together, even though we have to stay safe and apart from each other.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add that after I've finished my studies, I co-founded a new association, which is Dobrze, which means good, and we are an institution too, actually, and we feel like we cannot do what we did before the pandemic, because we run workshops for children, for adults, for everyone, in which we basically try our best to integrate people and to have fun together. And what's the most important, we try to tell people the most we can about integration, about how a blind person can be happy in life and a deaf person the same. And we just learn, we just teach them tolerance and just being friendly, especially in kindergartens and in primary schools. And this is what we can't do now, because of course I can do the training, the workshop for my institutions, for adults who use Zoom and so on, but I cannot do this for children. And this is a point. This is a major difficulty. That's why we have less work, I think. Yeah. And what to do to have to protect the integration and to try to avoid loneliness. I think we should just be together as hard as we can, even if we can't meet. Just call people, write to them, try to be online with them. And I think group online parties are a good thing too. And I also believe that we need to take everything what we can from this hard situation, this difficult situation. We need to, for example, when I think of my studies, I was a student. I was writing my 2 MA theses on the Silesian University, and that was interdisciplinary studies. And I had some lectures in 3 different cities, which were really far away from each other. And when I imagine that I could have my lecture online, that sounds like a dream, really. So I think sometimes we can learn how to use these new solutions, technologically wise, I think. Yes, to help ourselves and to do more even, and to be safe, to be not infected, of course. And I think it can be used after the pandemic. Just some hybrid or some online activities. This is fine. For example, like my yoga trainings. We are from, my goodness, we are from so far away from each other, from many different cities around Poland, and we can train together, being blind, just online, because there are no stationary trainings like this in studios, yoga studios. So we can do really nice things and try to be as close together as we can. I think so. I deeply believe we can manage this way.
Natalia, thank you so much. Your input is so positive.
Thank you.
It is really inspiring, I think, for the whole discussion. Jarek, now your tips to stay together in this strange
You ask
time.
about something not digital, not online. So I think it is possible. It is quite hard. But for example, this month we try to organize something like a city game for families. And we are preparing some game cards and these cards will be able to download from our website, and families probably can go individual to do some exercises outside, not only in home, not using a computer, but in small groups with your family only. You can go and do something outside. It's very important sometimes, because I think we are really tired to sitting in our homes because we are using the same space, the same computers do a lot of things, to recreation, to work, for example, to education also, because, for example, our children using computers to learn online. And it is really hard because we are tired to using that. So it is important to making possibility to go outside. Also, some in summer it was easier because we organize a few events for small groups in the nature. There was a lot of walks for maximally it was 20 people, I think, and people were very happy that they can go somewhere and meet others. And it was really important for them to go outside. So it is hard, but I think it is possible to do something like that.
I think that there are some possibilities, but you also, the way to communicate them to your community is again digital. So I think just to stay only in like the analog tools is really, really hard, because at some point you have to send the email probably. Yeah. Ruth, what are your thoughts on staying together, united?
I think the digital meeting, the digital event is probably here to stay for a lot of people. That doesn't mean that once this is over, people won't start wanting to do things in an analog or physical way again. Because as I've seen from where I live, the piece of paper and the printed word and picture is very important. So I think it will be a balance between the two. I think that certainly in Britain it will be a long time before amateur choral groups, amateur drama groups can get together in the same space. It will be a long time. But just feeding off what Natalia was saying about the kind of things that she's been doing in the cultural world. Similarly, in the UK, many professional musicians have also been streaming online, sometimes for free, and or just asking for a donation because their work has dried up, and that's been quite popular as well. So for the foreseeable future, I think the status quo will remain, but there will always be a place, as soon as we can get out of this safely, for the physical meeting together. And I think the printed word will still have a place, certainly in the communities where I live. I think it will matter because not as I said earlier, not everybody can access this kind of thing. And then there is also an issue of capacity to absorb and physically to manage digital information and digitally visual cues and things like that. So that, I think, on balance, that's what I'm thinking. It will have to be a mixture, and it will be a mixture. We should exploit what the digital world offers us, but we should also be mindful that not everybody can do it. Or is it desirable in all cases?
Yeah, I can only agree with your last statement. I have also kind of a general question to all of you. If you have the impression that the pandemic changed us as a society, like the Polish people or the British people, in some kind of visible way in terms of solidarity, or like the feeling that we belong together somehow, identity, or is it not really visible at that point? Jarek, maybe you would like to start again?
Oh, I have no idea because from one side, there was a lot of examples that people in these hard times want to be solidar, want to be together to help others. And it is the one way. But also I think, as Ruth told, it will be a lot, we need a lot of time to make something in relations once again normal, because for now we are learning that we should be separate, we should have a distance, we can't meet each other, and it is really hard, and we don't know now how it will change our relations with others, with our friends, in society in general, with our families, because we are trying to have this contact, digital contact, telephone, and so on, but I don't know how it will be, especially about children, I think now, because they, in kindergartens, for example, in schools, they can't behave normal, to have a contact, to talk with each other, to have some kind of physical contact also. And it is really hard, and we don't know how it will work in next years, because we don't know how much time it will take, this situation, this separation. So I don't know.
But I think that the idea of small children who don't know, who have to keep distance during the first years of their life, perhaps, is a quite really depressing thought, I think, and we don't know what it will affect in future on their behavior, for example.
It's really hard, especially when the schools and kindergartens are closed and they're only using computers to learn on the internet, and they have no contact with children in the same age. It's really hard for them, I think. So maybe older people have easier, I don't know.
Yeah, there were times where we would ask the children not to spend that much time in front of the laptop, and now it's, well, yeah, no other way. Anya, would you like to continue now? Microphone.
I knew that it would happen. It's very difficult to answer your question. I don't know if this change, this situation, this experience changed as a society in general. But what I've experienced from people during this 6 or 7 months, it's a huge I got a huge portion of patience, kindness, understanding, and support, actually from my colleagues, from my family, and also from completely stranger people like teachers. It was okay for them that something doesn't work perfectly on Zoom. Yes, there was a huge understanding that we are all learning as a society. We are learning how to live in a completely different world and different conditions, how to not only to live, but also work and take care of everything in a completely new way. So my personal experiences are very, very good, and I hope that it will spread maybe someday in general.
Now your turn. A second. Yeah, here she is.
Hello, can you hear me? My internet's a bit weak, so I was trying to write some notes. I've seen a lot of kindness and concern for others over the last 7 months. For example, one example is if you've been walking out on a pavement on a sidewalk, and it's very in where I live, they're very narrow. Very often, people where you're crossing people step into doorways or even into the road to keep that space from people. People have done a lot of shopping, picking up medicines and things like that for other people as well, which they wouldn't normally do. I've noticed, though, that some people are very, very cautious, themselves protecting others. On the other hand, I've also seen right reckless, and I wonder why. It's almost as if there was nothing going on. And even amongst my community of senior citizens, I see people not wearing masks or face coverings, standing up close to people. And I think it's just habit of that generation wanting to put their arm around people, coming up close, touching. And the other thing which is something I mentioned to Veronica when we spoke a few weeks ago. This group of people, I wondered how long they're going to be locked up. Could this be their last summer? Could this be their last winter or last Christmas? And, you know, my heart goes out to those people who may never spend their last time on earth doing the things that they have been used to doing and doing the things that they love. And I find that so cruel. This position that we find ourselves in globally, it has very unequal effects, I know, and we're very lucky in Britain, believe it or not. But on a local level, I'm concerned, and I could, for people who may not see friends, have that human touch from even a stranger ever again. So I'll leave you with that thought.
Yeah, I remember this our conversation, and I think that this is also something, really hard if you imagine that this is something, that somebody's life will probably end in such circumstances, and that you can imagine that somebody, I don't know, dies in a hospital without contact with their family and so on. This is like a very depressing and also very sad aspect of this whole pandemic. But let's leave this on the side and move on to Natalia. And I was wondering, what are your thoughts on how we are as a society? If we changed or if we are the same?
I think we as a society, we need to be more aware of how to look after each other and how to take care of ourselves also. And I think we need to think more altruistically about others. And I think these times, this very difficult situation, shows us the maturity of some people and the completely opposite attitude of others. My father is a doctor. He's an internist, infection specialist. So we're so close as a family. We're so close to all of these tragedies of people, which happen all the time, every day. People being lonely, people being abandoned sometimes. And I think what is also very, very important to see and to observe and to imitate when people help each other in such a wonderful, nice and kind way. For example, helping elderly people, seniors, to see the families on cameras, or just doing shopping for them. And I think we will learn, and for some of us that would be a really big progress, and something will just stay in mind. And I think we are in the process in which technology is actually crucial. And I believe, I'm sure we need to, we have to teach and train people who are excluded, for example, seniors who are technologically excluded, like seniors and like people with different kinds of disabilities. And I think maybe this time will slightly build up this integration, maybe. I hope so. Yeah. I thought I will stop being optimistic after 30, but it didn't happen. So maybe I still believe in humanity, being a human. Yeah.
You are the right person for this conference about humanistic.
Thank you.
Actually, I prepared some questions about self-organization during these difficult times and what is frustrating at work. But Natalia's answers reminded me that maybe we should focus on the positive aspects of this situation and skip the bad things, because there's already too much bad news happening. And so, like Natalia already mentioned, I would ask the other three panelists to just express 1-2 sentences, like what is the positive aspect of all of that, what you have learned and what you would like to continue to stay with you in the next future time, and what is like something, a positive accent for the end of the discussion. Ruth, maybe you will start now.
Yes, good idea before I drop out my internet again. I've been busier than ever. I feel as though I've accomplished a lot of things that I never had the opportunity or the time to do. I've become interested in other things. I've become aware of my surroundings. I've been involved in great, wonderful projects, musical projects and things like that. I'm not bored. I've got lots to do, and I want it to continue. I'm interested, though, as to whether I would, the rate at which I have done these things this year, I don't think it would have happened had we not been forced into this situation of lockdown because of the virus. They would happen eventually, but not at the accelerated rate in which they have happened because of the virus. So there you go, positive.
Very good. Stay with this energy for the next month. Anya.
Yeah, microphone again. Besides the things I've already mentioned, which is learning lots of new things and so on, maybe I will say that thanks to the pandemic, we've visited Australia, we've visited New York, we've been to London, Ireland, Spain, Ukraine, Belarus, and so many different countries I can't remember right now, because we got touch with Polish people, Polish communities living abroad. They are also locked down, and teachers from schools, from Polish schools from many different countries, they started contacting us if our online lessons will be also available for them. We also started cooperating with institutions here in Poland, taking care of education among Polish teachers and Polish students living abroad. So I think this is a great contact, and this is something we wouldn't think about if pandemic didn't happen. We wouldn't even have time to set up a new program, you know, for another group. So I'm very grateful for that, and I hope that it is something that will develop in next months and years. That's what I would add to the things I've already said.
I think what you also already mentioned before, the whole situation also changed the picture of the National Museum, that it's an open institution, accessible, and also open for this international cooperation, which perhaps until now wasn't not that visible. It was there, but maybe not so obvious to the broader public.
Yeah, I may add one more thing. Museums in Poland developed during past 10 years very much. They started running so many programs for families, for children, for people with disabilities, and so on, that normally we even don't have much time to think about maybe something new, maybe something innovative, maybe something different from the things we are doing. We want it so much. And maybe thanks to that, what would happen, we finally got some breath, and we had to rethink. We had to do that. We had to rethink. And this is very good also, to rethink sometimes.
And to reflect not in some abstract ways, but now because the reality is like that. So
Yes.
Thank you very much. And Jarek, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think and I hope we will be better connected as now, because I think normal it will be really hard to meet you all over the world. Now it is possible, it's more popular, and I hope it will stay with us. And the second thing is that we will rediscover that small is beautiful, because before we were focused that we should do a lot of events, for a lot of people. Now we are connecting, if it is possible, not only in digital, but also in the normal world, in the physics space, that we are focused on events for a small group of people, and then making relation is more possible and more optimal. And I think it is very important, and I hope it will stay with us.
So would you conclude or agree that maybe this is also the situation where culture becomes more diverse, because you start not focusing on huge events where you gather the most people taking part, but maybe more go into niches and smaller group of participants, because this is somehow, I think you also mentioned now?
I don't know, but because I don't think that, for example, big festivals disappear. Probably we will back to that in the future, but I think we will be more oriented on small events. I think on the relation, it will be more important for us than it was before.
And maybe also people working in the cultural sector are now in the need to be even more flexible than they used to be, because the situation is changing so fast. Yes, that you cannot plan like months before something, or well, you can plan, but what will happen, it's another story. Yeah, we will discover that small is beautiful. Jarek, you're quoted in the chat. And I also seeing that and the Colombian chapter mentioned their panel on purpose. So I guess there is a great link from our conversation to there. And I would like to thank you, all of you, that you decided to participate and join this panel, and also the people who decided to spend these 2 hours listening to us. because I know that this is maybe not the sector or not the subject many people are so interested in their lives, and it's not like very how to say, our humanistic chapter is a bit different probably than the others because we are mostly focused on culture. But I hope that also for other participants it was inspiring, and you could take some ideas and some thoughts for your everyday work and for your everyday life. And Agnieszka, maybe you would like to add something because you were listening to us the whole time. Maybe you would like to summarize everything as a
I think that
observer.
it's very hard to summarize because you have a lot of wonderful thoughts and ideas. And I think that maybe one idea is that okay, we can be very frustrated because of the situation, because of the pandemic time. But this 2 hours shows that there is a lot of hope also in our activity. And I think that we should bear in mind this thought that the situation will be better, and because of cultural activity and cultural institution, we can have this hope. So I think that this can be our idea to the future. So thank you once again.
I have also the impression that the overall resume of the conversation is basically quite positive, and we should see the whole situation also as a chance and an opportunity to grow, to learn something, and to perhaps rethink many things in our organizations and our everyday life. So I'm very grateful that the conversation was so positive and not only depressing and about stressful situations in our lives. So thank you again. And now I hope Ernst will continue and say what will be happening next on the conference.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for this. Veronica, you just said like it's different than what other chapters are doing. Yes, it is, and it's good like that. I think that is something that we should be happy about, and we should be grateful that we have this diversity within the Humanistic Management Network. After all, that's what the topic of this conference is, and so I think it was a fantastic addition to other sessions that we'll be having. And in that sense, I found it exciting and thrilling and very impressive, the different perspectives you had. And I also think that some things are, I don't know if they're all positive, but they're at least very interesting that are coming out of this in the management business perspective also. I think one positive thing that I would like to add, maybe if I may, is that a lot of business organizations have learned that they can actually trust their people a lot more than they thought they could. Right? A lot of executives that you would have asked, and I guess it's not so different in cultural organizations also. If you had told them 2 years ago, everyone can work from home whenever they want, they would have said like, well, then they're not going to work, right? They're lazy people. The moment they don't have their managers standing behind them, they're going to stop working. And the opposite happened. They had to go home. There was no one standing behind their back, and they did their work. They did it better in many cases even. But no matter how, better or not, or what you certainly cannot conclude is that people get lazy and stop doing anything the moment they are not micro-supervised by a manager standing behind them with a whip. So I think that is another very, in my view, very positive learning that we can take away from this, that we actually can trust people. Most people want to contribute to the organizations they're working in, and most people are making an effort to be able to contribute, even if there are adverse environments for doing so. Yes, I just felt like I wanted to add this one more positive dimension that we are experiencing. That is also connected, of course, to what we're working on and what we're thinking and what we're believing in as well in humanistic management.